All right. Hi, Steve. How are you today?
I'm doing well today. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining today. Really appreciate you joining us for this pen test call. So, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, can you just take a minute and introduce yourself and let us know what your qualifications are to be a ethical hacker?
Yeah, so my name's Steve. I'm a senior security engineer here at IGI. Most of my background is in the IT kind of related field, mostly within higher education. I'm originally from Denver, but after graduating high school, I moved out to Rochester and pursued a bachelor's degree in computer science. Their advanced computing track, which was very attractive just because it was more of technical elements of computing. Brockport's where I pretty much got my start in career on IT services, doing all sorts of IT related work, including help desk, user support, web application content management, identity management, systems. Administration, network administration, databases, identity management. Those are a lot of the fields that I'm kind of familiar with, and I was able to, I'm very fortunate to move up and around in Brockport. One thing that kind of got my eye and interest was information security, mostly the technical side of it, as far as management of vulnerabilities and control. So that led me to pursue a master's degree at Rochester Institute of Technology in their computing security degree program. And that's where I got a lot more of my fine tuning skill set in regards to information security, risk management, and all sorts of analysis. So after Brockport, I got a stint over doing DevOps system security for a enterprise promotion marketing management software firm. Then I started working at RIT as a security engineer, mostly doing risk assessments, vulnerability analysis, and infrastructure related security. So most of my
Nice.
background is pretty well rounded. Knowing kind of understanding the framework and background of the IT environment definitely helps give me an edge of conducting pen tests and what to look for and kind of common pitfalls that I've seen in my experience that tend to happen all over the industry. So
Very good. Very good. Well, that is a well-rounded and extensive background. So we're very happy to have you be on the services team here at IGI, making up the cybersecurity people. So can you tell us what exactly is a pen test or a penetration test?
So a pen test in its probably most simplest form is a offensive exercise used to illustrate the exploitation of vulnerabilities within an environment. And when we talk about vulnerabilities, mostly we're talking about different kinds of control sets. So there's technical controls, physical controls, as well as people, which you wouldn't necessarily think of as a control element, but people are the weakest link in security. So a penetration test is it's pretty much used to kind of illustrate the way that a malicious threat actor would try and infiltrate an environment, as well as try and get an understanding of their target and what kind of information is out there. So it mostly is something that's guided to help illustrate to a company the different kind of risk factors, whether it's strategic, operational, financial, legal, regulatory, or most importantly, reputational. To where if a successful pen test results in multiple hosts being exploited, reputational damage is one of the few things that you can really come back on. So um, it's basically used as a tool to help companies and businesses understand what their risk level is within an environment so they can make as informed decisions as they possibly can.
Excellent. Thank you. That was a very well-defined explanation of what a pen test is. So what are the different types of pen test?
So I kind of talked about it a little bit. So there's basically three kind of flavors. There's a technical, physical, and social engineering, but they're classified primarily into three different box categories. Um, Similar to, the hacker type, there's white hat, black hat, and gray hat hackers. There's white box, gray box, and black box penetration testing. Um, the main difference between them is the amount of information you have on an environment before going into it. So the white box is you have the most information of the three going into the environment. You have a specific scope set, and typically you would have like a goal or an objective of what kind of systems that you're targeting. Black box is the complete opposite and is more realistic to a real world type situation where gloves are basically off, and the penetration tester or an attacker would use whatever means necessary to conduct the test. Gray box is in between the middle. You have a little bit more information, but you have a little bit more leverage of what kind of exercises that you can execute. One of them being social engineering is one that's a pretty attractive target set just because like I mentioned before, humans are and always will be the weakest link in security. But beyond those kind of basic elements of pen test, there's all sorts of different flavors and different kind of exercises too, which mostly in the industry we talk about red teaming, blue teaming, or purple teaming, which are variants that use penetration testing as far as kind of exercises and activities for real world simulation. So pretty much in a nutshell, those are the primary areas of penetration testing.
Great. So let me just make sure I understand this. And so for a white box, that's where we gather the IP addresses, right? So we give that information to the penetration testers, and then they have a certain parameter that they're testing. And then on the gray boxes, where you might include some social engineering in it, making it a little more extensive. And then on the black box, my understanding is that pretty much you just give the pen tester the name of the company, and then they do their surveillance and their exploitations. That one does have to have a executive sign off on. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And so, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say most of these engagements do need to have sign off too, but more so with the black box.
Right. We do gather an authorization form so that everyone knows that we're going to be doing this, because if they need to alert their IT team, or if we're doing a cloud, then we have to let them know if we're going outside the physical on premise, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so how often and when should a company do a pen test?
So my answer, as most things with security, depends really. So it depends on what kind of company you are, as well as what are your assets to your company? What's the biggest risk? A lot of penetration guidance and cadence is driven by regulatory and compliance initiatives. So you'll see that at least on an annual basis, that if you fall under certain regulations, you need to have a penetration test. Like the PCI DSS Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. That's an example of one regulation where you're required on an annual basis to have a pen test conducted on your environment. Um, as far as what we talked about earlier, the different types, a lot of the recommendations are pretty much standards that you should have a penetration test, but it doesn't define exactly what you should test on. Um, Most of it comes around scanning and information discovery for like PCI DSS. But my recommendation is, at least once every couple years. Usually one pen test can help drive a lot of initiative to move certain security objectives forward. It's also used to help illustrate certain risk and vulnerability in your environment. So, yeah.
Very good. Very good. And then what does a pen test show? What does it provide to a company, and what can it help prevent?
Yeah. So my background within IT, understanding not just the background of how operations work, but also how a lot of IT managers and leaderships kind of struggle in conveying security initiatives, and a lot of it sometimes gets stuck in the political backyard of driving strategic objectives because defensive security really isn't a source of profit. You can think of it more as an insurance kind of policy to help prevent loss of, damages such as financial or reputational loss. Um, and a pen test sometimes, and most often, can reveal things that are already known to IT leadership, but it provides a backbone to help push certain security initiatives forward that help driving for more resources such as budgeting or people, tools, technology, or processes. So it's one thing that can definitely help with those. As far as preventative measures, I wouldn't say that pen tests could prevent anything because there's always a possibility for something else to be leveraged. But it can definitely get you a good foothold in upping your security posture as well as letting you know about things that you don't know. Because pen testing is a different frame of mind. Approaching a problem from a, kind of a backwards kind of top-down approach. So you learn about different techniques and different ways to infiltrate a system that most people often wouldn't even think about. Because when you talk about securing your assets, you want to secure your most critical assets, but even your non-critical assets can play a vital role in a lot of penetration testing.
Right. And some of those critical assets would be company data, employee data, um, recipes or secrets, or correct?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the way that you can move around an environment is important too. Most of what is taught in security is a defense in depth approach, but you can kind of see the threat landscape changing, and more industries are kind of focusing on a zero trust kind of mentality to where trusted connections, it's not inherent. It's still like a validation and verification of um, the processes and technology that's being incorporated. So it's kind of an interesting shift in the way the threat landscape is moving and the way that a lot of companies and industries are trying to secure their systems.
Absolutely. So, penetration test is just one point of a well thought out cybersecurity strategy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something that can definitely help understanding, like I said, your risk to an environment as well as can help a company leverage resources and get the resources they need to move certain operations forward.
Perfect. Steve, thank you for your time. This is very informative, and I look forward to working on more pen test opportunities with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it was a pleasure talking with you as well.
Take good care.